Hello everyone, it's Eileen here. It's the weekend, so I have another Lavinia stamps and stencils video tutorial for you today, and fingers crossed there'll be another one for you tomorrow as well. This is today's card. I've already filmed this once, but unfortunately there was a couple of hiccups and it didn't turn out very well, so I'm having to redo it, which is why the hands are a bit mucky. But the card that I did in the first film, actually I prefer it to the original sample that I did. I used stronger colours, exactly the same colours, but I used stronger colours and stronger pressure on the brushes for card number 2, but obviously you can choose and you can do whichever one that you like. So let's get going. This is a piece of Lavinia Stamps Multifarious cardstock, and it is 12 centimetres in width by 14 centimetres in length, and when I've completed it I will mount it onto a card blank of the same size. Sweet Poppy stencil tape is a low tack, very low tack tape, and those of you that follow me know that I always use this. Never had a problem with it, never had a disaster with it. And when you're laying this down in any configuration that you like, this is sort of, oops, sorry about that, knocking the table. It's sort of, I'm winging it, to be perfectly honest. I have a plan sort of in my head, but I'm going to lay the tape down first over on the left hand side and pulling it so that it gives me a stripe, but it's straight. The idea is to stretch it so that it goes across and finds its own level. Well, that's the plan. Let's have a look. Oh, actually, it doesn't matter if it isn't straight anyway. Press it down firmly so that the ink doesn't go underneath, but even if it does, with this technique, it really doesn't matter. You'll see that as we go along. So that's stripe 1, and then another piece across. Stripe number 2. Press it down firmly. And then anywhere you like. So I'm going diagonally there. I don't want it going into that stripe there with a rough edge. So mind your torn edges of your tape. Keep them out of the way of the open spaces so that you've got nice crisp lines. And then another piece there. And I'll have another angled one there. I'm not really even thinking about it. I'm just plonking it down and sticking it down. And that's layer number 1. You'll be using it again in a moment. Makeup brushes. Sweet Poppy stencil makeup brushes. I've got one that I'm using for yellow, and that's mustard seed. One that I'm using for blue, which is faded jeans. And another one that I'm using for red, and that's fire brick. And all I've done is to colour the Sweet Poppy name in the red, yellow and blue Sharpies so that it gives me my primary colours and I know which brush is which. Mustard seed to begin with. It's the smaller of the brushes I have. And just a circular motion, not too heavy-handed, but not too floppy with the wrist either. It's sort of normal pressure. Not all over, just randomly here and there. Faded jeans I have next. And lighter. I'm not so pressing so heavily. And mainly because this faded jeans ink has been re-inked recently, So it's quite wet, and I don't want it to be too splodgy or overpowering. You can do this with oxides if you like. In fact, it would look pretty good. I prefer distress inks because I can see all the layers through because they're transparent. Oxides, as you know, are opaque, but you could still give it a go. I reckon it would still look good. Fire Brick is the last one that I'm using in the distress inks. Taking some of that off as well because that is also quite a wet pad and it can be quite overpowering. So that's the first layer. It's quite pale, or rather less pressure on the inks for the first layer. And then you remove the tape. And I'm getting more tape now and putting on layer number 2. So I go. Again, making sure that any rough edges are not in the white areas, because you'll get the rough part. I'll show you this bit because that's in there actually, but we'll see. You can always cover them up anyway. I just want the edges to be nice and straight and crisp. But if they're not, they're not. Not going to lose any sleep over it, are we? Right. Make them a bit longer so it takes them right out of the equation. I think that might be a good idea, yes. Make them longer. So, yeah, that's better. Again, I'm not even thinking about it. Just laying it down, any old how. And then taking, this time, just blue, speckled egg. Using the blue brush, not cleaning it, and then all over and with a very floppy wrist action, so that it's skimming. You're skimming across the surface of the tape and the card, all over, even the areas where you've inked it. If it goes underneath some of the tape, adds to the mix, no panic. Saturday, we've got to be chilled. It's an order. And there's Formula 1 on this weekend. All be still, my beating heart. Hope the weather's okay. All the practice sessions were stopped yesterday because the medical helicopter that they have to have that's able to fly couldn't fly, so they couldn't do any of the practice runs. So that's number 2. Turning my copy paper over because clean copy paper gives me a better perspective on how my card is looking instead of all of the coloured areas all the way around, which can affect your perspective of your design. So it's nice and clean. Got a mark there. I can soon get rid of that. So guess what? Yes, it is more tape. I'm going to get rid of some more of these white areas. Let's go in there, like so. And then again, any old how you like. Don't try following me, just plonk it down and you get what you get. so. Okay, now I'm going back to red, fired brick, and my red brush. And then quite heavily this time. But not too much, Eileen. And then I've got the yellow. See, the tape keeps lifting. Doesn't matter. Go with it. And then some blue. Some darker blue there. Some darker blue there. And then finally back to speckled egg. Oh, that was speckled egg. I want faded jeans though, but I want it a bit darker. So, okay, now finally speckled egg. Again with the blue brush though, but I'll take some of that faded jeans off onto my kitchen towel. And then a final all the way over. With the speckled egg. Now when you remove these, you're going to get some white gaps, and that's fine. Well, it's fine for me. If you don't want it, then tape it up again and get rid of the white space. But I like a bit of white space, so I'm leaving it. So that is what it is. Now, I've told you lies there. I'm going to get rid of some of this. So I'm going to pop this on, down again. There's too much white space. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go with faded jeans. Mustard seed again. Give me a bit of green. That's that. And then I'm going to get the speckled egg and the blue brush. And I'm going to very lightly go over that and that. But not much. I just still want to have a whisper of the white look. Let's have a look. Yeah. Take that out a bit, I think. Ah, that's better. You know what it is? You look at it and you think, don't like that, and then all of a sudden you add a bit more and away it comes. Now, I've got quite a yellow splodge there. So without taping it up, I'm going to put some more fired brick down. See, this is the joy of this technique. You can go on and on and on until you reach a look that you like. Very lightly though, wrist action is very, very loose. Yeah, that will do me. That will do me indeed. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Move all these out of the way and go on to the next bit. And the next bit is the stencil. This is Flourish from Lavinia Stamps. Not going to tape it down, Back to the speckled egg again, because I don't want this overpowering. I just want to see it lightly in the background. But you can use whatever colour you like. If you want it more bolder or in the front, then use a darker colour. And then I'm just going to quite heavily pick out random bits of the stencil, not going all over the whole thing, just bits here and there. Lift it up, have a nose. Oh yeah, that will do. And that's that. And that will cover in even more white space that you've got. See, coming together, the layers do it, the layers do it. We're on to, or I'm on to stamping now. And the first stamp that I'm using of 3 is called See a Fairy. It's a lot of text on this stamp, beautiful words. I'm only using it as a background, so you're only going to see a word here and there. And it's a gorgeous font, but you need 3rd generation ink. So I'm going to ink it up with VersaFine Clair Twilight. And then taking off 1, 2, 3, and then over to the card. Let me just check that I'm in shot. I am. Down we go. 1. Press heavier now. 2, 3. Pressing quite heavily. Bit more there. Back up there. And maybe a little bit more over there. So it's, oh, and a bit there. So it is all over, but it's not all over in so that you can read all the words. It's just using it as texture. Okay. Now the next thing is the beautiful Moth Indra. Big stamp. You might want to use a stamp press. I'm brave. I'm going to use this with my stamping pad. But what I have made sure of, because this stamp is so large, is that my VersaFine Clair Nocturne pad is really inky. It's a new pad, or newish. Lots of gentle tapping. Especially on the body of the moth, because it is so detailed. Beautiful drawing. She's so talented, is Tracy, and skilled. I think that should do me. Piece of kitchen towel, just to take some ink off of around the stamp and around the block. I'm not worried about it getting on there from the stamped image. I'm worried about my fingers going in it and getting it everywhere. I'm going to stand up for this and position the stamp on the side of the card, around about there, down. Let the ink soak into the cardstock. Gentle pressure to begin with, just gentle, all over, and then a little bit firmer. Very detailed stamp, so I want to be sure, and I don't want to rock it. And there it is, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful image. And then the final thing, well, there's a couple of things to do. another stamp, and this is called Believe in Magic. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. And we could all do with a bit of magic at this time in our lives, couldn't we? Versifying Claire on Nocturne again. You might want a stamping pad for this. I'm fingers crossed that I'm going to get this straight. If not, I could start all over again. Okay. So round about there. Down. Standing up. Not too heavy pressure. Down and up. Yes, that's fine. And finally, I'm going to add some white splashes with a Posca pen. And this is paint, a Posca paint pen. Just want to see that it's flowing. It is. Just going to pop that over my moth. I don't want it getting totally covered in white splashes. Like so. It's quite directional if you're careful. Yeah, that will do. I'm quite liking that. What do you think? And I think that I'm going to use some chipped sapphire and a blending tool just to bring the edges in a bit, but I'm going to mind my fingers on that paint. Just going around the edges with the chipped sapphire. It just brings it in and finishes it off, doesn't it? You reckon? Finishes off with those edges. I've noticed as well that I have a tiny mark here on the moth that is not opaque black, so I'm just going to fill that in, and that should soak in and that won't look as bad as it is catching my eye at the moment. I can still see it, but I'm hoping it will soak in so it won't be so bad. Anyway, that is it for today. Thank you very much for looking. That's the one that I've completed. And then I will mount that onto a 12 by 14 inch card blank. This is the one that was the original one that I did on Facebook. And this is the one that I did earlier on. So you've got a sort of a palish going to more vivid to even more vivid. Your choice. Yes. What's a squad of moths called? I've got no idea, but you've got a few there. Thanks ever so much for looking today. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Bye for now.